1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster.
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honey Bee.
Fun time, go!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and neighbors, welcome to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. I am one of your hosts, Precious D.
And I am the other one of your hosts, Honey Bee.
Honeybee and I are two best friends making our way through the history of kaiju movies. We started in 1933 with King Kong, and today we are in 2016, and the movie is Shin Godzilla.
Ayy.
Which basically just means New Godzilla.
New indeed.
Honeybee, what are your initial thoughts on Shin Godzilla?
Oh my gosh. I have so many thoughts. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to put them into words. Wow. I was not expecting so many things out of this movie that I got. I will say most of the time I feel like I either don't like the people shit, or there's too much people shit, or I don't know. I feel like there's a fine line between the balance of the people shit and the monster shit. And I kind of feel like this movie went a little bit too far into people shit, but what I will say is the people shit wasn't some bullshit romance or love story. It was very like, what are we gonna do? You know what I mean? So I appreciate that. I appreciate that it wasn't, there was a little bit of things in there. There's some hot people giving eyes and that sort of thing, but it's not like, oh, hello, we're meant to be together and we're going to bond through this trauma and we're going to fall in love, and it's stupid and just shit I don't care about. Uh-huh. I'm glad that all the people shit was very like, fuck, what are we going to do to like make this better? It
was very procedural.
Yes, all of it. All of the people shit was very just make a plan.
Yeah.
No, scrap that plan, make another plan. So I will say initial thoughts, people shit a little too much for me. I wish there was more monster shit, but the monster shit that did happen was so epic that it did kind of make up for that a little bit in my book. I will say that I think this may be the scariest, meanest, crazy eye Godzilla that we've ever seen thus far. Not that I've seen all of them, but I will say up until this point, even with his whittle hands, which are so cute, his whittle nubs and then his whittle hands, so cute. But yeah, just destruction, brother. Golly. But yeah, it was a joy. It was a joy to watch. I'm so glad that we're in 2016. What a year. And man, so many things that I just wasn't expecting in this movie that I was just like, what the fuck? And I'm just really happy to be here. What about you? What are your initial thoughts?
Well, I saw this in the theater when it was new. I was very excited. Mm-hmm. This, of course, was kind of brought on by the American Godzilla. Since American Godzilla did so well, Toho said, oh, maybe we should do another of our own. And there was nothing in the agreement that said they couldn't do their own while the American ones were being made. So they decided to just start over with something new. And I really enjoyed it at the time. I'm not sure I enjoyed it as much this second time.
How dare you? Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I like that Toho was like, yeah, you can have a little Godzilla for your little United States, but don't forget who daddy is. And then brought out this little guy with his little nubs.
Yeah. As far as this Godzilla himself, I like the movie, but I don't really like the Godzilla. In that he doesn't really have much of a personality.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is kind of that's not what they're trying to do with the movie. Mm-hmm. Let's get some stats here first, and then I'll go into that some more. It was directed by Hideki Anno and Shinji Higuchi, who then went on to work on some other things together. One of them was basically the director, and the other was the special effects director.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's Hideki who then made... Well, they both worked together on some Evangelion stuff. And I think they both worked on Shin Ultraman.
Okay.
But I think only Anno was on Shin Kamen Rider. So it's weird. This movie did not exactly start a new Godzilla series, but it did start this Shin series that are supposedly all connected and in the same world, but unless there's just some little Easter eggs, I didn't see anything explicit. And then Higuchi, I think, has a new movie out that I started watching yesterday, but I didn't finish it yet because I started watching it too late. Called Bullet Train Explosion.
Oh.
Which could have been called Shin Bullet Train. In that it is a sequel to a movie that I haven't seen but is on Tubi, so I will be watching it soon. There's this movie from the 70s called Bullet Train. Although the Japanese name of both of these movies is basically the Bullet Train's Big Explosion. But in English, it's The Bullet Train and Bullet Train Explosion. But one is a sequel to the other. But I'm like, why didn't you just call it Shin Bullet Train? It's Speed on a train, but the original movie is before Speed. In that there's a bomb.
Oh.
There's a bomb on a train, and if it goes below a certain speed, it's going to blow up, and you got to pay us a ransom for the disconnect instructions or whatever.
Nice.
So, yeah. Anyway, that's on Netflix right now, and the original is on Tubi.
Sweet. Let me know how it goes.
But I got sidetracked. The budget... Oh, this is annoying. The budget is listed in yen, and the box office is listed in dollars.
Oh, that is annoying.
So it's 1.3 billion yen and $79.3 million. I believe...
You said 1 point... What, give me the number again. 1 point what?
1.3 billion yen was the
Okay, I'm on
budget. And $79.3 million was the box office. But I don't know what the conversion rate is, but I'm pretty sure it did make a profit.
Okay, in US dollars, that equals 9,030,348.92 cents.
Okay, so if it only cost a little over $9 million and it made $79 million, that's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Pretty good.
We love to see it.
The cast, they're only, what? All right, it lists 3 cast members, and then it just lists a bunch of cameos and supporting appearances, and then lists all those people, but not who they played.
Oh, shit.
God damn it. So we have Hiroki Hasegawa as Rando Yaguchi, Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary. Yutaka Takanouchi as Hideki Akasawa, aide to the Prime Minister of Japan. Satsumi Ishihara as Keiko Ann Peterson, special envoy for the President of the United States. So the special envoy to Japan is a Japanese American woman.
Mm-hmm. And she fine, too.
No, it appears that she is Japanese and not Japanese American, because it says here, she became excited after accepting the role, but stressed that her character features English-heavy dialogue, stating, "Sometimes it's so frustrating, I just want to cry."
Aww.
I was watching it dubbed because I had an idea I was going to take notes, and then I didn't. So I don't, everybody was speaking English, but I guess in the Japanese version, she's speaking some English.
Yeah, I watched the Japanese version, and she does speak English, and it is adorable. She did a great job, and like I said, smoke show, total smoke show.
Yeah, and then I'm not going to bother reading off all these other people because it doesn't say who they played, and I don't recognize any of them. Though I think some of these people are in these directors' other movies. Now, the theme of this movie, though, what Godzilla is a metaphor for, is not the atomic bomb, but a more recent event in Japanese history, which is the Fukushima nuclear disaster and the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, which the earthquake and tsunami caused the nuclear disaster. So it was one thing on top of another. First, there's this terrible earthquake with a tsunami to go with it, and then that caused a problem at the nuclear plant.
Damn it, boy.
Yeah, so it was shit on top of shit. So I think the personality-less nature of God and the grotesque nature of Godzilla and the way he just sort of sweeps across the city is these
symbolic.
these directors take on that, and I think that's why they weren't giving him much of a personality and making him
I think that makes perfect sense.
Making him even more of a force of nature than the original, because even though it's a nuclear disaster, it was caused by this natural disaster. So
I'm not gonna lie, when we're first introduced, because the way it does it, we see the tail first, we see him through some like blurry kind of bad quality shit, like just some dorsal fins, and I'm expecting Godzilla, especially because like the sound he's making, very Godzilla. The music, obviously, they don't start with the music, although the music in this movie was fantastic. Ugh, it was fantastic. There was one point where I was like, what the fuck is this music? But it was only one. But the music was so good. But there's, I'm just really expecting, for him to come out and be Godzilla. And when I saw this... When I saw him first with the crazy eyes, like, jump scare, I was like, what? And I was like, okay, is this who Godzilla is fighting? I still didn't understand what was happening at first.
That's exactly what I thought when I first saw it. I thought, okay, so folks, if you haven't seen it yet, Godzilla goes through a couple of different forms in this movie. Mm-hmm. So it's not clear when he first shows up that he is Godzilla.
Right.
And I thought this is the thing that Godzilla's going to come fight. And
yes,
it wasn't until he stood up that I was like, oh, this is Godzilla? I don't know how I feel about that.
I was thinking his eyes, because his eyes are just so batty, like so crazy. And when they're small, but when they're big, because he's kind of like goes from like tadpole to frog, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And so when he has like no arms and he's nubby and he's like just slithering around and kind of trying to walk on his feet and shit. And his neck is very like gills and kind of scrotum-esque. It's very, very strange. But I was just so confused because I'm like, why is this kaiju making Godzilla noises? Because it is very obviously like, Godzilla noises. So I was so confused. I had to like Google it. I'm like, why are they using this sound effect? And I couldn't figure it out, and I didn't want to spoil the movie, so I was like, just wait a second, it'll happen. But the crazy eyes I thought was a kind of a tribute in some way to when we had suit actors, and they didn't have eyes that blink, and they would just have these ginormous crazy eyes.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's actually really fucking cool, and it looks scary and is really fucking cool. And I just loved his little nubs, but I just didn't know it was Godzilla. I was just really confused, and I was kind of like pissed off that they were using a Godzilla sound effect for this other kaiju. And then I'm like, oh shit, he starts evolving, and it's like, oh, okay. But I did love that old school feel with the like original crazy eyes. And then when he goes from like tadpole to frog and he has the tiny crazy eyes, it really reminded me of when you would get an ice cream from the ice cream truck and you would have like a character ice cream like a SpongeBob or like Spider-Man or whatever, and the cover, like the wrapper of the ice cream really looked great, but when you opened it, it was just these weird little beady candy eyes.
Yeah.
Very much that.
But sometimes, though, they're off center and
Oh, yeah,
misshapen.
exactly. Yes.
I want to backtrack just a little bit. I'll mention, since you brought up music, that Shiro Sagusu is listed as doing the music, but he was clearly using some of Ifukube's music as
Yes,
well, and he used
definitely.
those classic Godzilla themes as he should.
Absolutely.
But any new music was his, and of course he has to arrange. They didn't just, I don't think, just took the old recordings. I think they probably arranged and recorded new.
Yeah, definitely arranged it, because it was when they do use the song, the music that we all know for the Godzilla, the bam 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 bam. It was very slowed down, a little different rendition. I will tell you my favorite music part when we get to it, because it is so good.
Okay. About the crazy eyes, folks, again, if you haven't seen this, even in those old suits when they didn't blink, and some of the suits they did try to make them blink, but even then, I think the old suits had sort of eyelids. They tried to make them look like eyes, even if they didn't move or blink.
Not this guy.
These ones are, they're just round white circles with a black dot in the middle, and they don't blink until one part when there is sort of like a nictating membrane that closes over it, because Godzilla's about to do some crazy nuclear explosion shit.
Yeah, it's so fucking
So he
good.
consciously closes the shutter because he's about to set off a blast or something. Let's get into the plot, which we have from Wikipedia. This was also the highest grossing Japanese produced Godzilla film in the franchise until Godzilla -1.
Ugh, so good.
2023. And it got 11 Japan Academy Prize nominations and won 7 of them, including Picture of the Year and Director of the Year.
Nice. Very nice.
Anyway, here's our plot from Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia. In 2016, the Japan Coast Guard investigates an abandoned yacht in Tokyo Bay. The boat is soon destroyed, and the Tokyo Bay Aqualine is flooded with blood.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry to already interrupt you. But this just reminded me, the camera angles in this movie are so batty. That we have so many camera angles that are just really just weird, but in the best way. It really, really works. But for example, like when we're seeing this opening scene with the boat and all of the shit, we have some like Cloverfield moments where it's very POV and things are like chaotic, but then we get these moments where the camera may be just in this weird angle at the bottom pointing like diagonally up, and we just get like somebody's hands, or we get like somebody who's talking further in the distance, but we're closer to people in front of them, and so they blur the people in front of them and only focus on the person that's talking far away, but we're at this weird camera angle. And it was so interesting, and just, I loved it. I thought that it was such a great choice for this movie, and it really gave it that kind of new feel. There were some moments where I didn't feel like it worked as well, but I will say majority of the batty camera angles were such a win for me. And this opening scene, immediately I was like, whoa, camera angles. And just as the movie progressed, they got weirder and weirder and weirder, and I loved it.
Well, I think there was a lot of that in Shin Ultraman as well.
Yeah.
And I think he also did this similar thing with every time a character comes on screen or comes on for the first time, there'll be some text on the screen saying who they are and what their job is. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's titles for all the locations as well. And I think I remember him doing that in Shin Ultraman as well. So I think that's just a thing he likes to do.
And I appreciate it.
Because a part of it is also, I think he's trying to save us time, storytelling wise. It's like, I got a lot to do. I don't have time for these people to introduce themselves to each other. They already know who they are. I'm just going to give you the info on the screen, but not going to weave it into the conversation.
Brilliant.
Anyway, moving on. After seeing a viral video of the incident, Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary Rando Yaguchi believes it was caused by a living creature, which is confirmed as news reports reveal its tail emerging from the ocean.
Yeah, but I love how he's like, hey, I think it might be an animal. And they're like, shut up. This isn't a joke. We're in a meeting. And he's like, no, I think it might be an animal. And they're like, next. Like they just give zero fucks about what he has to say. And then whenever it is an animal, they're like, oh, shit. And I'm like, yeah, bro.
Shortly thereafter, the creature moves inland, crawling through the Kamada district and the Shinagawa area of Tokyo, leaving a path of death and destruction during a disorganized and chaotic evacuation. The creature quickly evolves into a bipedal form, but overheats and returns to the sea. When it's flopping along in its first form, it keeps sort of spilling blood out of its gill-like structures, which is just gross. But I think it's also to do with our theme and just how the ocean just makes a mess out of when it comes up onto the land violently.
Ugh,
in an earthquake and tsunami, it just kind of makes a mess of everything.
And we gotta say shout out to the Japanese sign language interpreter.
Yes. I thought of you when I saw that. It also made me curious. Did it make any sense to you, or is Japanese sign language very different from American sign language?
It is very different, like incredibly different. Also, I really was like trying so hard to watch her signs, and I'm like, yeah, none of this means the same thing in ASL, like none of it. And then there was even this part where I saw her repeating some signs, but they weren't repeating, and that could just be because I did watch the Japanese version and it's just the American, like, like the subtitles or whatever. So I don't know if maybe I like missed something, but I was like, I don't know how. I couldn't tell you. No idea. There's so many sign languages just in America alone that who fucking knows,
In the bullet train movie, it must be fairly standard in Japanese news conferences, because in the bullet train movie that was going on as well. In the news conference scenes.
Access is important, especially when you have to evacuate a whole damn city.
I mean, you see that here sometimes as well, but not so much in movies.
Yeah.
And then occasionally here you get somebody who's not an actual interpreter,
fucking dicks,
who sneaks in and just starts doing shit. Thinking somehow no one's gonna notice. I don't know what those. I could think maybe 2 times this happened on a national stage.
There's like a few things that people say to you when they find out that you're a sign language interpreter, and one of them is like, have you seen that video where they're like faking it?
So weird. So what a I can only think that that person must have some kind of mental health problem, that what made them think that was a good idea. Anyway,
I have nothing nice to say, so we will just move on.
So it overheats and returns to the sea. The government officials focus on military strategy and civilian safety. Yaguchi is put in charge of a task force researching the creature. With high radiation readings from the creature's path, the task force realizes that it is energized by nuclear fission. The U.S. sends a special envoy, Kyoko Ann Peterson,
Meow.
I just thought it's so funny that she has such a very Japanese first name and then Ann Peterson. Usually it seems to go the other way. You get a very English first name and then an Asian, either Japanese or Chinese last name, but not with her. Anyway, she reveals that Goro Maki, a disgraced anti-nuclear zoology professor, studied mutations caused by radioactive contamination, predicting the appearance of the creature. Maki was disbelieved by both American and Japanese scientific circles. The U.S. then prevented him from making his conclusion public. The abandoned yacht in Tokyo Bay belonged to Maki, who left his research notes jumbled into a code on the boat before disappearing. Oh, I think also another theme in this movie is sort of government inefficiency or
Yes, because the prime minister, for fuck's sake, my dude.
Yeah, I don't want to quite say incompetence, just sort of inability to act quickly.
Yeah, he's like, I needed to make a decision now. It's like, no, just wait. Sit here and think about it for a few days while this fucking huge monster destroys everything.
Also, there was a very much concern about actually activating the defense force. Because, like, well, the law says we can do it in defense against an attack from another country, but this isn't a country, so can we do it? And I'm like, wow, nobody ever worried about this in the old movies. They just rolled out. They always worried if someone suggested nuking anything. But nobody said, actually, this attack is coming from a creature and not a country. Like some civil rights group is going to sue you for defending the city from Godzilla. I don't know. But, you know, I think that was, I don't know all the details of the actual, you know, disaster in real life story, but I'm guessing there must have been some frustration with the government response afterwards.
Yeah.
That is coming out in this movie.
For sure. I also love how around this part we get, like, you know, in every movie ever, it's like, ugh, he's a pain in the ass, but he's the best we've got. We get an entire group of these people, and I love that. Like, not just one, but like 17.
Yeah, like you're all the freaks and weirdos that nobody wants to listen to or work with, and we need you to solve this problem. And they do seem to also be doing it a little bit unofficially. It's like, we know that the people that are in charge aren't going to get shit done, so I put this team together to get some shit done.
Yes, and there's this part too when they're all in this office doing their, you know, fighting the world shit, and everyone is like they're talking about how the whole city needs to be evacuated and la-di-da-di-da, and I just love that there's just like a janitor in the corner just like cleaning shit, and I'm like, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, that guy.
Yeah. The creature named Godzilla, after Maki's research, reappears in its fourth form. Did they call it Godzilla? In the English dub, they call it both Gojira and Godzilla.
Yes, they kind of address the whole Godzilla thing. Okay. In the, they kind of, because what's her name? Miss Peters or whatever, Miss Peterson, Ann Peterson. She kind of addresses that in America, Godzilla, and then when she says that, one of the guys is like, Gojira, and they kind of have this little back and forth about it. Okay. And talk about how he has self mutation. Yeah. And when he comes back, I was like, oh, thank God, he's looking a lot better. Even though his little fingers were just cracking me up. He was just like, with his like crazy eyes and his like tiny little fingers, his tiny little eyes. Me and Gus were laughing so hard because Gus was like, "Ooh, I do a destruct." We were fucking just cracking up. It was just so funny.
Anyway, he reappears in his fourth form, twice its original size, making landfall near Kamakura. The Japanese self-defense forces mobilize but prove ineffective as Godzilla breaks through their defenses into Tokyo. The U.S. intervenes with a massively destructive airstrike plan, prompting the evacuation of civilians and government personnel. Godzilla is wounded with MOP bunker buster bombs. What is MOP?
Don't give me a line.
It doesn't say.
Mother of pearl.
I guess so. That's what we're going to go with. But responds with destructive atomic rays fired from its mouth and dorsal plates.
Whoa. We got to pause for the cause here because holy fuck. This scene makes this entire movie for me. All the boring shit about we got to do this, we got to do that, we'll use this gun, this plane, this bomb, whatever, don't care about anything in this entire movie except for this scene because it is so good. This scene really just, I mean, I can't even put it into words. The atomic breath, like, first of all, when he gets hit by the American bombs, and he's just kind of like, yeah, like, he gets pissed off, and I'm like, oh, now you've pissed him off, and we are kind of used to, I think, especially in like the Legendary films where we have that like power up, like that bzz, 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 and it's like coming. There isn't really that like power up here, but you can see, okay, we're getting the atomic breath, we're about to get it. And then when his mouth just splits open, this is also when his eyes kind of do that like shut thing, and just destroys the entire city in seconds. Ugh, it's the meanest attack we've seen from Godzilla, I think, in any movie that we've seen thus far. I don't really think anything compares as far as destruction to this particular scene. I think this scene just kind of makes... I think this scene, if you're comparing, which I feel like it's necessary, the Legendary Godzilla to this Godzilla, and the Godzillas before to this Godzilla, right? This point that we're in, I feel like Legendary had already made their movie, sure, but like toned it down a bit, right? And then like Godzilla -1, for instance, kind of really hit just that perfect sweet spot. But this is just so brutal. Just so brutal and so mean. And the closest thing I can think of to this moment, as far as like how just mean the destruction, it would be either... I'd probably say Space Godzilla was pretty intense, or Destroya. But you can't really compare that because this is 2016 when we have all of these, great effects, and it's just kind of a different time. So I feel like it's almost not even comparable. But I just feel like my mind was fucking blown. My jaw was on the floor. I couldn't breathe. It was crazy. It's the most destruction in the quickest amount of time that we've ever seen, and just how absolutely scary this Godzilla is. Just, I love it. I love it so much. I can't get enough of it.
Well, in all that destruction, he takes out a helicopter that has the Prime Minister and several top government officials on board, and incinerates large swaths of Tokyo. Yeah, he's got beams coming out of his mouth and his dorsal plates. His
dorsals,
and
yes.
His tail at one point. The tail might come later, though.
It comes later, yeah, for sure. But I imagine that because the lights, it looks like lights to us because of it's a movie. But coming out of like his dorsals are very like, there was like a Godzilla rave of destruction. Just It was a light show for the ages. Just nutty. Like, and they're like, oh, they're all dead. And I'm like, yeah, fucking everybody's dead. Like, he just took the entire city and just leveled it in seconds. It was crazy. And then he was just like, all right, well, I'm just going to take a snooze right here because I'm so exhausted.
Yes. Yeah, that's what it says next. Depleted of its energy, Godzilla goes into hibernation. It's nappy time.
Yeah, he's tired.
Yeah. Oh, and the color of the beams was kind of purplish.
Yeah,
magenta-ish.
little magenta-y.
Yeah. Yaguchi's team discovers that Godzilla's plates and blood work as a cooling system, theorizing that it could use a coagulating agent to freeze Godzilla. Analyzing tissue samples, it discovers that Godzilla is an ever-evolving creature able to reproduce asexually. The United Nations, aware of this, informs Japan that thermonuclear weapons will be used against Godzilla should the Japanese fail to subdue it in a few days. Evacuations are ordered in multiple prefectures in preparation. Unwilling to see nuclear weapons detonated in Japan again, Patterson uses her political connections to buy time for Yaguchi's team, in which the interim government has little faith. Yaguchi's team manages to decipher Goro Maki's encoded research using origami, because what could be more Japanese than that? The team adjusts its plan and procures the means to conduct its deep freeze plan with international support.
Yeah, I love how they're just like, with our powers combined.
Hours before the planned nuclear attack, Japan enacts the deep freeze plan. Godzilla is provoked into expending its atomic breath and energy against Predator and Reaper drones. The team then detonates nearby buildings and sends unmanned trains loaded with explosive towards Godzilla's feet, subduing it and enabling tankers full of coagulant to inject it into Godzilla's mouth. Many are killed, but Godzilla is eventually frozen solid.
This is just nutty. First of all, if you know anything about giant monsters, the last thing you want to do is get in a train and go billowing towards it. But they use like 12. They're like, all right, the first round of trains, and they just like go, and of course they all die, and they're like, all right, second round. I'm like, holy shit. Lots of people die. But yeah, them just feeding the shit into Godzilla's mouth, and they said it's something like 672 kilometers of coagulant, or I don't know what the math is, but they're just like pumping it into his mouth. It was just hilarious to me. I kind of, this part was a little bit silly to me, but worth it. I'll say it's worth it. And we get so many cool camera angles at this point, not just of Godzilla, but of the people. You know, there's that one point where they're like trying to crack the research code, and they're all like looking into the guy's computer, and we're seeing them from inside the computer screen. And every time like it's someone's turn to talk, he'll like take the computer away and be like, let me see, and then he'll like say what he needs to say, and then the other person will be like, let me see, and then he'll say what he needs to say. So we're getting exactly the person in the camera. It's just so good. It was just so well done. I loved how weird it was. And just the weird, like, at one point, the camera's in, like, a rolly chair. And it just, like, rolls across the, like, office. And so we're getting this kind of perspective from this rolly chair. I'm just like, ugh, chef's kiss. I love it. Oh, and I have to tell you my favorite music part is also in the scene when Godzilla is losing his fucking mind and killing everything. It's like this beautiful classic opera music. Ugh, are you kidding me? It was so beautiful. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure. Which part?
When he's losing his shit and like atomic breathing, dorsal finning everything, and just
right.
destruction. They're just playing this very light, beautiful, like classical music with this like opera in the back, and oh my god, it was so good. Just everything's on fire, everything's glowing red. There's this pan out, you can see him just standing there from head to toe, just complete destruction, and this just beautiful classic piano and just this opera like vibrato, and I was feeling it. I was like, ooh, whoever did this music, I just want to kiss you on the mouth right now. So good.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really notice that. I probably did, but I'm not remembering it at this moment.
It is so good.
In the aftermath, scientists discover that Godzilla's isotope has a half-life of 20 days and that Tokyo can soon be rebuilt. The international community agrees to cancel the nuclear attack on the condition that, should Godzilla reawaken, an immediate thermonuclear strike will be executed. And now the weird part. On Godzilla's tail, humanoid creatures appear frozen in the process of emerging.
Little babies.
And that's just how it ends.
Okay, but we missed something though. What did we talk about the part where his like dorsal fin was like stuck on a power line, and they were like, "Oh, he's gonna make babies all over the world." Did we talk about that?
No. Do
you remember that?
Yeah, they did think that. Wasn't there a part here about him reproducing?
Yeah, I just didn't know. Yeah, totally. I just didn't know if we like talked about like how it was happening.
Oh yeah, when they analyzed the tissue sample, they discovered Godzilla's an ever-evolving creature able to reproduce asexually, which I guess is part of what's going on in his tail at the end. That he's still evolving, baby. And that if they hadn't frozen him, a bunch of humanoid.
Scary. They're so scary.
Right. But it's also unclear I think, because we only see them very briefly. It's unclear how big they are. Are they human size or just human shaped? And is this because he's come into contact with humans that he now has this, that template
It's just
that
it's
he's
just
absorbed?
part of being a god, baby. It's just
Yeah, I
part of
guess.
being a god.
I guess so. This was all very mysterious and confusing, I think, to everybody at the time. They're like, what does that mean? What was...
What does it
And of
mean?
course, a lot of speculation on potential sequel. Would that have anything to do with anything? I do want to mention quickly, among all these cameos and sporting people listed is Jun Kunimura, who was in Godzilla Final Wars, and Akira Emoto, who was in Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla.
Nice.
So I guess they were put in there on purpose, or it could just be that, there's a lot of people in this, and there's a pretty good chance at least one of them would have been in a Godzilla movie.
Yeah, I think one of them is the new prime minister after the original prime minister who can't make a fucking decision to save his life dies in a fiery helicopter crash. Because the way that they introduced him, I was like, why aren't we looking at this? Why aren't we showing this guy's face? This guy's got to be important. And then they showed his face. I was like, yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, that might have been it. But it's hard to know sometimes if... obviously, if you get Kenji Sahara, that you're doing it on purpose. But it could also be that you have a distinguished older actor to play a prime minister, and there's a pretty good chance he's been in a Godzilla movie just by accident. It's kind of like the sheer volume of British actors that were in a Harry Potter movie. There's just throw a rocket at a group of British actors and you're going to hit somebody that was in a Harry Potter movie.
I haven't actually finished those. I really need to, but I haven't.
Yeah, you can. A couple years ago I would have told you have to. These days I'm not such a fan of J.K. Rowling anymore. But that's another conversation for another time. You probably want to see how it turns out.
I'd like to, I guess. I got to I got to the fourth book and it was like, I finally started liking them. But then I got to the fourth movie and I just kept falling asleep, and they're so dark and the music is so nice and calming, and I'm an old lady and I just can't stay awake.
Oh my. All right, well.
Okay, so what do you think? What is your... Because you said you liked it when you first saw it, and now you're not so sure. Tell me about it.
I just
give me the.
I guess I just didn't like it as much as when I first saw it. I think
Why?
maybe just
because of the babies.
No, I think maybe just because I didn't like Godzilla himself that much, and there is a lot of people shit.
Yeah.
But when it and also just in comparison to just everything that we've watched now, having watched so much of this and also knowing what's coming.
Yeah.
Though even at the time, I saw it with my friend David Carson, and I think he liked it a lot more than I did.
Shout out.
Yeah, he seemed much more impressed. I liked it, but I think he just loved it. It's still good. I think I'm still going to give it 5 stars.
Sick.
But it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite Godzilla movie.
For sure. I will say I don't necessarily love when Godzilla's the bad guy. I prefer my Godzilla, saving Tokyo. But I will say, or Japan, I guess. But I will say that I did really appreciate, there was a moment in this movie where someone was like, yes, destruction, blah, but we have to learn how to coexist with Godzilla. And I was like, okay, all right. So yeah, I will say that it's not my favorite for him to be the bad guy, but this is the first, right, Shin Godzilla, so it's kind of a standalone on its own, so it makes sense that he's the bad guy because that's kind of how the cycle starts mostly.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah, just how he was just a complete animal, no personality. I think that is both a strength in this movie because we've come from so many before. I could see it also being like a weakness, you know.
I mean, I do appreciate that they were kind of going back to basics with this and doing something that was in contrast to what Legendary was doing.
Yes.
Because that, in the Legendary ones, he's basically the superhero good guy from the beginning.
Right.
And they were like, no, we're going to make this about the Japanese trauma, national trauma again.
Which is what Godzilla is. I mean,
yeah.
Originally.
So, I appreciate that they're like, nope, he's going to be a metaphor for the shit that we've gone through.
Yeah.
And I can't argue against that. So
for sure,
I'm gonna go ahead and give it 5 stars.
Yeah, I'm gonna also give it 5 stars. I don't think it's my favorite Godzilla, but it's really hard to top, and not movie wise, but just Godzilla, just what he's capable of, just this. I wish there was more of him in this movie. Even if he is just like a weird little weirdo slithering around with nubs, I just wish there was more of it. Because the people shit kind of started to get old for me. And I guess it kind of made me appreciate how sometimes the people shit is more personal. Because this people shit was not personal at all. Like there was no, oh, love this character because of this. Oh, blah blah. There was just none of it. It was just like map work, facts, nerd shit. Let's do it. We got to fix the world. Everybody's going to die. And I appreciate that. I did like that there wasn't a love story, but it also kind of just made me see the contrast of like, I don't really give a shit about any of this. Like, I don't really care about these people. I just wish there was a little bit more Godzilla in the film. That's kind of my only like downside of it. But I love how, like you said, it kind of went back to basics, but also brought so much new in his... in the makeup of Godzilla, in his atomic breath, in his dorsal fins, in his little wacky babies on his little tail at the end. Just, I really just, maybe not my favorite Godzilla movie, but hard to top as far as Godzilla goes. Just so mean and scary, and I just love me those crazy eyes, I just love them. They look into my soul, and I'm like, are we in love? I don't know. I can't tell, but it's great. So I definitely 5 stars from me. Definitely 5 stars.
I wanted to mention that one of the directors, Shinji Higuchi, did work on Gamera, Guardian of the Universe.
Nice. There is a. Go ahead.
I thought it said he worked on another Gamera as well. Yes. He is the special effects director for Gamera 2, Gamera 3, and that looks like it. I mean, a bunch of other stuff, but of Gamera movies, the ones from the 90s. He was a special effects director on those.
There was one part in the entire movie, just one, where I was like, what the fuck is this music? And it sounded very Gamera music to me. How it's very like, just like we're at a fucking state fair or some shit. Just like, we're so happy. And I'm like, okay, this song is like the only out of place music out of the whole, but it just feels very Gamera to me. So that's pretty cool that he was... Maybe he had a little say-so in that, not sure. But, go back to if you can, just YouTube it. Al will send you a YouTube video of the, crazy destruction scene, just so you can hear the music. The score of that scene just fucking punched me in the face. It was so good. Ugh, I loved it so much.
Let's see. Next week's movie, I think, is going to be Kong, King of the Apes. Let me just check that real quick. I think it's a cartoon. Okay, yeah, this is another King Kong animated series, so we're not going to do like every episode, but we'll look at a couple of them. And it's on Netflix. And
sick.
Then we're going to try to work in Kaiju Mondo, which is... We're going to have to get like a 7-day free trial of some obscure streaming service to watch that one.
But we will do it for you guys.
Yeah.
Please let us know, though. I really want to hear how other people feel about this movie. There's a girl that I work with, and I was telling her, oh, yeah, we're watching Shin Godzilla, and she was like, oh, my God, I love Shin Godzilla. And it was so interesting because I don't really know her that well. And then to watch the movie and be like, okay, bitch, like, all right. So, yeah, I would love to know how other people feel about this movie because it's just so different and so the same at the same time. But I just, let us know. How do you feel about it? Because I'm sure there are people who are like, ugh, not my Godzilla, whatever. So I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, folks, you can go to our website, mmftg.com, and leave us a message there. And please like and subscribe and rate and review and all those things. And consider checking out our Patreon as well. But I think that's going to wrap it up for today because we're recording this on Friday and I need to get it out.
Woo!
So... thank you all for joining us. Until next time, I have been Precious D.
And I have been Honey B.
Remember to keep calm and take shelter in basements.
And please don't misuse science.
We won't see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go. You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please consider rating and reviewing us on your podcasting platform of choice. You can leave us a message and find links to all our things at mmftg.com.